How?
Hola, 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 and buenos dias, and welcome back to the FRENS VALIDATOR YouTube channel. We will wait for more people to join now, but first and foremost, Cryptocito. Welcome again to this format that we invented. I don't know, 3 years ago, when we were on the verge of this crazy bull cycle that eventually came. But now we are sitting here and we are ready to play once again a session of Overrated, Underrated. So yeah, welcome back and thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's always good to be here, and it's crazy to think like how everything evolved over the past years. With you guys, with friends, you're like on pretty much every Cosmos chain out there now, onboarding even chains outside of Cosmos, growing the team. Cosmoverse is coming together really nicely. Maybe we can talk about this as well. But yeah, man, it's been a wild journey, and I think honestly, I feel we're now at the tail of the bear market. So I think right now it's actually a very good time to, to be on top of the things, especially in Cosmos, right? Like shared security went live, the first consumer chains or atom zones just went live. So there's a lot that's coming up in Cosmos. So I'm very excited, but of course the prices are, not reflecting that yet. So might still be a couple, bearish months ahead of us, but the development and the excitement behind and with the community is very bullish. So I'm pumped.
100%. I can just give that back. Before we dive deeper into all of these projects that we will cover in a couple of seconds and minutes, let us quickly touch base on what you are doing in Dubai right now. So maybe there are some viewers who are tuning in and are based in Dubai. What's going on with Atom Dubai? Then I can also briefly talk about Atom Istanbul and general Cosmoverse thing. So what's happening there with Coin Bureau?
Yeah, I mean, we announced Cosmoverse, the third edition, early October, second till fourth, in Istanbul, Turkey, and leading up to that main event, which we're both co-founders of. Leading up to the event, we have this Road to Cosmoverse campaign where we're basically, touring in different cities and just build and get together the local Cosmos community, but also those that are maybe interested in Cosmos and just want to get into the ecosystem and be connected. So we have a series of local events that we call Atom XYZ. We've been doing this actually since the beginning. I think the first one was in February 2022 in Denver as a side event of East Denver. That's also why, Atom Denver, because we saw, oh my God, it's like East Denver, we got to turn this into Atom Denver. We did a lot of events, Dominican Republic, India, we did one in Bangalore, we did Lisbon, Portugal, and we already did Dubai in March. And now in 8 days on May 19th, we'll have the second edition of Atom Dubai. And we have a very special guest this time, which is Coin Bureau. I think Coin Bureau is actually the largest content creator in crypto, 2.3 or 4 million subscribers, like massive reach, been around for many, many years. I was invited to their office here, which is literally just around the corner because I also moved to Dubai now. And yeah, he will be there. I will be having a fireside chat with him that will also be live streamed on the Cosmos account, on the Cosmos YouTube channel. And yeah, we have a couple of sponsors that will also, introduce their projects a little bit. Nolos is one of them, for example, that this is actually the first time this is public, but we'll publicly, formally announce that in the next few days. But yeah, it's just a cool community event. These sell out really fast. Dubai is at 150 tickets that are almost sold out. The second batch just went live, and I think it's almost sold out as well. But it's good. And then we have Atom Istanbul coming up on the 22nd of May for those that want to join that event. And then we have Atom Berlin, which you are running, July 11th, right?
Yeah, exactly. So July 11th is the place to be. At this day, Berlin is the place to be also because a gigantic Cosmos conference week will take place in Berlin. Osmos and Hackversion will take place shortly afterward, and Atom Berlin will be a mini version of Cosmoverse. The tickets are for free. And we are like still looking for projects to get involved, to hold keynotes and panels. And I want to pick up this question here. So if you are interested in reaching out to us and getting involved, like into one of these events, Atom Berlin, Atom Istanbul, Atom Dubai, you can do so. Our DMs with the Cosmoverse Twitter account are opened. And besides, we will also set up a contact form on the Cosmoverse website, www.cosmoverse.org. So yeah, if you guys are interested, reach out to us. But yeah, a lot of Atom XYZ events are in the pipeline, including Atom Berlin, including Atom Istanbul, and the most nearest one is, as Cito just mentioned, Atom Dubai. And also very, very interested in what Coin Bureau actually thinks about Cosmos. He published some videos here and there, but yeah, I think this is also something people should stay tuned for.
No, when I met him, he told me that throughout the bear market, he only held 4 coins, which is Bitcoin and Ethereum, Polkadot, and Cosmos or Atom, right? So he's actually a fellow cosmonaut, but I think, he's covering so much, especially like macroeconomics. So he's not as deeply plugged in, as we are. Obviously, that's also a totally different thing that we're doing, but yeah, he's aware, like he understands the vision of, the internet of blockchains. And I think it's good to have him in our community. And also now that, I think we'll talk about the Atom Economic Zone, but with this new narrative, I think also a lot more traders, content creators are picking that up and, start to like get on top of the things in Cosmos, which I think is a really good time now to be in the ecosystem.
Yeah, 100%. And you just mentioned the Atom Economic Zone. Let us dive deeper into the game. Overrated, underrated. Here we go. I'm just trying to make the full screen here. Is it full screen now?
Yes.
Perfect. And yeah, when I'm doing it full screen here, I can hardly answer questions in the chat, but I will give my best. So we will do a quick Q&A eventually when we are through. So yeah, put your questions in, and I'm happy to pick them up at the end of the episode. But yeah, let us get started with overrated, underrated. And you just mentioned it. The first project I want to talk about is the Atom Economic Zone. By the way, you just published a brand new video about the Atom Economic Zone. So I think you are like much, much deeper here. So could you walk us through and share your opinion on this?
Yeah, so late September last year, Medellin, Colombia, Cosmoverse, core developers from different organizations basically introduced this new vision for the Cosmos Hub and the Atom coin, which was labeled or called Atom 2.0, right? So they released this giant white paper that had elements for, the positioning of the hub, some, applications like, or features like shared security, interchain services, an MEV capture, the allocator idea, but also to refine and basically entirely revamp Atom tokenomics, right? So Atom 2.0 was this giant new direction for Atom that just came, boom, like out of nowhere, for most people in the community, as like, that's a big change. And I think a lot of people got scared from that, which is why the proposal, when it went on chain, was rejected. There was also politics involved, which I don't want to get into, but that's also classic, Cosmos and crypto fashion. But yeah, Atom 2.0 was rejected. And then, people thought, okay, is this the end now for Atom? Like, does that mean it will just stay stagnant and do nothing? But what actually happened was the community of validators, contributors, content creators, developers, they said, yo, there's actually very cool ideas in this Atom 2.0 paper. They just need to be refined and like picked up into individual projects. And the result of that is basically AEZ, the Atom Economic Zone, which is this flywheel for Atom based on pillars such as liquid staking, such as shared security, and also, DeFi applications that would foster the moneyness of Atom in Cosmos. And, we've seen proposals go live immediately after 2.0 was rejected. such as an increase of the community tax from 2 to 10%. There was something that immediately was done by, I think it was Simply Staking, a validator that just said, hey, this is something we can do immediately, right? Went through. The Atom Accelerator DAO, which was basically this council idea from Atom 2.0, was picked up individually, led by Youssef, ex-Messari, who then built this DAO, which is now the decentralized grant program for the Cosmos Hub. And they just closed a deal with Blockworks. So finally, we have marketing for the Cosmos Hub. Neutron just went live, literally 12 hours ago, 11 hours ago. The very first Atom-secured consumer chain or Atom zone, as you, whatever you want to call it. So the pieces are all coming together now. Back in Colombia, Stride was not live yet. Now Stride is almost a $200 million blockchain on itself that is market leader in liquid staking. They just made a proposal to become an Atom consumer chain as well. And the Atom economic zone is basically just all these puzzle pieces coming together. It's basically Atom 2.0 on steroids. And I think this narrative around, honestly, I personally believe a lot of reasons why a cryptocurrency is pumping in price is narrative, right? I think Cosmos always lacked narrative, especially Atom. But now with this new narrative, this new vision, this fresh wind, I see how it's all coming together. And it's also easy to explain, right? Right now, if you stake Atom, you get Atom from the emissions of new Atom. In the future, you stake Atom, you get NTRN, the native token of Neutron, you get STRD emissions, basically a continuous airdrop for just staking Atom. You earn transaction fees. You will earn eventually also USDC once Noble, which is this USDC asset issuance chain, migrates as a consumer chain as well. So Atom is just becoming a very, very attractive asset suddenly, picked up from independent teams to build these applications and features. And for me, it's like a no-brainer to be excited about this and to be bullish on Atom, more than ever. I've always been bullish, but with this new wind and direction, even more so. So severely underrated, in my opinion, the Atom economic zone. I think it still requires a lot of education around it, what it actually is, what is Stride. People outside of Cosmos are still unfamiliar with Stride, for example, or with Neutron. But yeah, I think we're at the point where we're about to reach this escape velocity for the Cosmos Hub in terms of positioning and branding, away from this boring meme token, Bitcoin wannabe and Cosmos to an actual competitive L1, not just within Cosmos, but also outside of Cosmos, right? So I think the goal for the Cosmos Hub is to really become this, this innovative liquid staking blockchain that also implements shared security, so it's competitive also to the Polkadot relay chain and those kind of things. But yeah, there was a long explanation, but I think it's necessary for people to understand, and hence why I believe severely underrated, Atom severely undervalued. But obviously, that doesn't mean that you should buy it right now and ape in with all your life savings. This can also go to zero tomorrow. But yeah, just very exciting times for Atom.
Yeah, I totally agree on this. So I think there is a lot to unwrap here. So first of all, you mentioned Atom 2.0. I think the proposal back then was just too complex. So we had MEV aspects there, inflation aspects there, so many things, and it was very hard for people to wrap their heads around that. And then there were people saying, hey, I don't know, 90% of the proposal, but these 10%, they really annoy me. And this is why people voted against Atom 2.0. And I think this is the right way to go, what we see now. And you mentioned so many exciting things here. So I also want to stress Noble here, because this also brings in another very, very exciting aspect, especially for Cosmos Hub validators. So right now, if you stake Atom, or if you're a validator on the Cosmos Hub, you earn money in form of Atom. So this is how we pay for our server bills, for our employees. We earn Atom in terms of commission fees. But now that we also stake Atom now and also earn USDC with that, that brings in a whole new dimension. So further down the road with Noble. So just imagine that you're like getting actual cash through staking Atom. That's like a huge value driver in my opinion. So yeah, I can totally agree on this. And for me, it really feels like that the Cosmos Hub is unfolding its full potential right now and also finds its role in the broader crypto ecosystem. Would you agree on this?
Yeah, and also see there's in the chat people talking about ETH and why Atom is better than ETH. I don't know. I mean, when DeFi Summer 2020 kicked off, I was a huge Ethereum DeFi person, right? And back then it was fun in the early days. But when DeFi Summer peaked, it was just Ethereum was unusable and people like me just got priced out, right? Now, I mean, I'm not using Ethereum as much anymore, but I used it a couple of days ago, and I saw people today saying like it's $80 to just move funds on Ethereum. Like it's just completely unusable, pricing out a large majority of the retail community. And why would you spend so much money and not have seamless interoperability, right? Sure, Ethereum has all the volumes, the liquidity, the biggest brand awareness, the most users, but I think the longer it takes them to fix their scalability issues and fees and cost to use it, the more the users will have to look for alternatives, right? It's natural, and I think that gives us in Cosmos a window where we can say, okay, we onboard these users, we get them into Cosmos, not only because Tendermint is faster and cheaper and greener, but also because it's interoperable, right? I think people are still sleeping on IBC. And yeah, that's why, when I started doing transactions on Kepler with IBC between different chains, it's like there was no way back for me to Ethereum. So the UX is better. There's also now more and more liquidity, more competition, right? We also have big chains that will bring in hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of new users to Cosmos, such as Say Network, Celestia, DYDX as well. So yeah, I think Cosmos is still lagging behind of many things, especially on user adoption, but it's coming. Like it's literally written in the agenda for this year. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I also have to intervene here. I'm still a huge ETH bull, but yeah, I mean, like, I don't think that like using Ethereum, like the general layer one on a daily basis is also not the purpose of Ethereum anymore, with all of these layer twos coming in and also now with Polygon and stuff like this. So I think Ethereum will become more and more a settlement layer to have this huge amount of trust, because I would say that Ethereum is still the most securest general purpose layer one, so to speak. But yeah, I can totally agree on all the other things, like I think IBC is heavily underrated. We already did an episode about rating IBC, and heavily underrated, because it gives so much user friendliness back to the user. And yeah, also I wanted to get back to something that you mentioned earlier, Stride. Yeah, I can totally agree on this. A lot of people don't know what Stride is all about. So if you want to learn more about Stride, we actually rated Stride in our very first episode of Overrated, Underrated, if you can remember, Cito. And we said it's heavily underrated. And then a couple of weeks afterward, it made like a gigantic pump, and now Stride is like everywhere. So yeah, make sure.
What was the price of Stride when we did that?
I don't know, but it was like, I think the fully diluted market valuation was 5 million or something. No, 40 million. 40 million, yeah, it was 40 million.
I don't think it was maybe 40, 50 million. But, we should take that clip and put it on Twitter and then take credit for calling it early,
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. But of course, no financial advice. Yeah, like fully diluted was $40 million, and the current valuation was like 4 million or 5 million, the current valuation back then, which was like very interesting. But yeah, we should definitely do this. But yeah, Atom Economic Zone, TLDR, overrated, underrated, right?
Severely underrated.
Okay, you go one step further. I say underrated. You say severely underrated.
Yes.
But yeah, next topic on the agenda, AVAX. The reason why I picked AVAX is because I just came back from Avalanche Summit in Barcelona, and I have to say I'm always looking forward so much to Avalanche Summit in Barcelona, because for me it's besides Cosmoverse, of course, my absolute favorite crypto conference. Guys, you like, if you don't like Avalanche or if you don't like crypto, just go there for the food because it's so amazing. It's such an amazing conference. It's being held in Pueblo Español, which is like a monument in Spain. So you basically walk around a monument and you get served with the best tapas, of an amazing wine selection and stuff like this. So it's so fun being there. But also besides that, I'm so excited about the Avalanche ecosystem because I also took some notes before this episode, prepared as always. And what I have to say is, first of all, what immediately came into my mind was, wow, how strong the synergies are between the Cosmos ecosystem and Avalanche, because the intellectual approach is more or less the same. So we have app chains, Avalanche has subnets, and also you have this aspect that the main chain, like the Avalanche validators, can also secure Avalanche subnets. So it feels very same. So the approach of Avalanche and the Cosmos Hub are basically the same. We just speak a slightly different language. It's like, Portuguese and Spanish, same but different, if that makes sense. And I hope I didn't offend any Portuguese people here. But I think you get my point. But what I want to really highlight about Avalanche is how smart they are doing marketing, and also how smart they are approaching traditional companies and institutions, because I've been there and there were so many companies from the traditional side of things, and they are all experimenting with subnets. So I find this so amazing, because Avalanche goes ahead and really focuses on consumer-facing applications. They want institutions to use their subnets, but they also invest heavily in projects to launch their own subnets, like NFT games and stuff like this. So I was very amazed by the Avalanche ecosystem. And obviously, I think you had Emin on your show a year ago or two. And obviously, we don't have to discuss that he's an absolute OG.
Yeah, I mean, I had Emin on. Emin was the professor of Jay Kwan at Cornell University. And I mean, I don't know, how much truth there is to that, but I think Emin said something along the lines that he basically planted, the seeds for Jay to like get into crypto and or I don't know, he was already in crypto, but to like develop this new POS algorithm, which eventually became Tendermint. But I think also between Cosmos and Avalanche, there's a lot of mutual respect between the developers, between the community. There's not much tribalism, right? I also don't see. I mean, of course, there's tribalism everywhere, but like on the grand scheme, both ecosystems don't have that, Cardano tribalism, maybe that, you see a lot from the Cardano community, or even Bitcoin maximalism, or even Ethereum. So I like their mentality. I also had Jay on, I think you are also, who is the VP of marketing at Ava Labs. And also I did a recent episode with the head of engineering, Patrick O'Grady, I don't remember his last name, where we talked about how Avalanche is structured. And there's a lot of similarities, but a lot of differences also in detail between Cosmos and Avalanche. But I would say I'm neutral. Maybe it's slightly underrated, but I think also, given that Avalanche or the AVAX coin is higher up there in the rankings, I think it's fairly rated, for what you explained. 5 billion market cap right now, is ranked 17. I mean, it should definitely be above Shiba Inu and Tron, and maybe even Polkadot and those. But I think Avalanche is cool, and I would say it's fairly rated.
Also to touch base on what you said in terms of planting the seeds into Jake Wan's head, so to speak. What I also really enjoyed at Avalanche Summit was that also Sunny held a keynote about mesh security, and he said that if he wouldn't be a dev in Cosmos, he would most likely be working on Avalanche or in the Avalanche ecosystem. So I think this says it all. And I would go a step further and say that AVAX is indeed underrated, just because they do things so smart in regards of approaching the masses to actually use crypto. Like, I've never seen such an extreme and aggressive way to do things like Avalanche is doing it, and it's a good thing. So this is why I view Avalanche as
And also,
underrated.
one comment about the conferences and events, since we started also talking about customers earlier. The thing about like why these events are so amazing, I also think Polkadot Decoded is a huge event, but you also have to think like these events are organized, structured, marketed, and funded from their foundations, right? And the Avalabs or Avalanche Foundation, or Avalabs, the company, like they're sitting on like probably hundreds of millions of dollars, right? With Cosmoverse, like we don't have that yet because we're entirely independent, right? We come from the community, so we don't have that access to the funding, which is why Cosmoverse is still, we need to work a lot harder on achieving results like the AVAX summit. But I think yeah,
We
it's
get there.
we get there, and yeah, we get a lot of community support. That's what I love about Cosmos. Like there's a lot of on-chain discussions and votings about also funding these events. So we'll get a lot of support, and we are very grateful for that. And we're doing this as a community as well. So that's also a key difference maybe between Avalanche and Cosmos.
Yeah, but also to be fair, Cosmoverse is also not far away of the size of these kinds of conferences. I don't know how far we can go. Last year we had 1,500 attendees from all over the world flying into Medellin. This year we will have even more attendees, and the gap between those conferences and Cosmoverse is not that big anymore. And I mean, last year we had so many cool things, a massage zone that we set up with friends, like all of these cool tiny things that make like a conference experience unforgettable. We had this NFT museum by Stargaze. We had this chill out lounge by Persistence. So we are like, I wouldn't say that there's a huge gap. So I think, this is the beauty about Cosmos, that everyone can do something. But TLDR, AVAX, in my view, underrated, and you say fairly rated, right?
Yes. And spoiler, this year Cosmos, I will personally work hard to get Cito running. So you see, I'm already having my shisha here. Inshallah, we'll have a shisha area at Cosmos this year as well.
Yeah, and Sisla, I'm so sorry. Of course, also Omniflix, set up the NFT gallery. And besides Omniflix, that's also one last thing I want to mention. This is the beauty about Cosmos, is that Omniflix is our partner for ticketing and live stream. So you see basically how all of these Cosmos projects come together and work together. You with Cryptocito, we were FRENS Validator, and we had Omniflix popping in, and we just had so many helping hands, and this is how we basically shipped Cosmoverse. So big shout out to Sislan once again. Congratulations to your successful chain launch.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Next topic. Neutron. Yes, we covered Neutron the last time already, but time-sensitive content. What happened last night? You mentioned it in the beginning. What happened last night? What the hell happened last night, Cito?
Yeah, last night was the beginning of a new era for the Cosmos Hub, becoming this atom economic zone that we talked about extensively. And Neutron is the very first atom zone that has been in development for around a year now, I think. And it's basically a CosmWasm-enabled smart contract platform that implements a lot of cool features. For example, for their governance structure, they have DAO-DAO-based contracts, which is a main DAO and sub-DAO systems. There's also token vaults, very cool concept on the governance side. It's optimized for DeFi, so there will be a lot of outposts from other DeFi applications in Cosmos. There will be Astroport, which probably will be the flagship DEX on Neutron. There's going to be an Osmosis outpost, the very first one actually, that is also launching, called Cosmos Swap. A lot of DeFi, lending applications, UMI, Mars. I think there's also a plan to get Stargaze onto Neutron, an outpost of Stargaze. So yeah, it's just an amazing smart contract platform, permissionless smart contract platform. They also do a 7% Genesis airdrop to the community, which will be distributed in 14 days from now, and will then be vested for 3 months. And people always tell me, oh, you have to address the US residents. Yes, they communicate very strictly that US residents are excluded from the airdrop, but that is not because they just don't like US people. It's because their hands are tied, with restrictions and legal issues. So they have to communicate that in such a strict way. But to be honest, like, the blockchain itself doesn't care where you're from, right? Like, you do with that information whatever you want. Just don't blame the Neutron team for that. But yeah, it's exciting. Last night the chain went live, the first Atom secure chain. There's a revenue share for Atom stakers and validators. And yeah, I think that's it. So I think it's underrated for sure, because also I think people don't know, but the Neutron chain is actually being developed by P2P Validator, and P2P Validator is also the team that initially started Lido, which became a 10 billion plus Ethereum liquid staking solution. And obviously Lido then spun out of P2P, and now the same is happening with Neutron. So Neutron also originated with P2P, but now they're also spinning out and have their own team, their own organization, their own, legal entity and these kind of things. But yeah, I mean, they have a strong track record. They know their stuff. I think they're about to announce also their early backers, which I don't even know like who is invested there. But yeah, it's interesting and underrated. Yeah.
Yeah. And also in regards to your statement, because I see this comment in the comment section popping up, like the thing is, if you are developing a project, you really need to focus on like shipping the product itself. And as we know, unfortunately, the US is not that crypto friendly anymore. And I mean, it would not help Neutron nor the broader Cosmos ecosystem if they could not build the product as they like, just because of restrictions. So if they just like, I understand that they just like say the statement there to be like insured, but as you said, you can do with the statement whatever you want. Because
But
I mean,
to answer Neil is asking two
yeah.
questions. Yes to both questions. Yes, you shouldn't blame Neutron. Yes, you should blame the US government.
Exactly. And also, there's something like NordVPN, and also you also mentioned that, the blockchain does not care about your origin. So yeah, do with all of these information whatever you want. But back to Neutron, to dive deeper there. What I also love about Neutron, so in regards of overrated, underrated, for me, I find it hard to finger point whether NTRN itself is overrated or underrated, but Neutron itself as a project, as a product, is like severely underrated in regards of what it brings to the interchain and to the Cosmos Hub, because you mentioned it. Neutron's also, so to say, developed by Lido, and I think you also mentioned in your last episode that Lido eventually / most likely will also launch on Neutron.
Sorry, say again.
You also mentioned in your last video about NTRN, Neutron, and the Atom Economic Zone that Lido, the application itself, will also go to Neutron as an application.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely in the works. Last time I talked to them, and I think we had countless Twitter spaces. I did multiple interviews on my channel. I think they said like Lido right now is not a priority, but I think also given that in Cosmos we have Stride, Quicksilver, P-Stake, Stuffy, and other liquid staking providers, like if it makes sense for Lido to also go on launch on Neutron, I think they would do it if there's market demand for it. But Cosmos already has a very strong ecosystem of liquid staking providers. So depending on how the competition, like how the market shares are distributed, what's the demand. But yeah, I think around the time when the liquid staking module goes live, which I think is Q3, maybe Q4, or maybe around Cosmoverse, like September, October, which would allow you to liquefy your currently staked Atom. So right now, if you go in Stride and you want to liquid stake Atom, you basically have to unstake your Atom, wait 21 days, and then liquid stake. When the liquid staking module is live, you can just, with 2 clicks, liquefy your already staked Atom without having to wait 21 days. And that would probably like reshuffle the market shares and cards for liquid staking providers and Cosmos. So I think they're waiting for that, and would probably time and align that with the liquid staking module. But yeah, I'm very excited about all the other applications launching on Neutron as well, and there's a lot that are coming.
Yeah, and this is what makes me so excited also about Neutron, is that there's like kind of a guaranteed liquidity inflow. So in the beginning, obviously, I mean, it sounds nice that we basically now can see DeFi activities powered by the Cosmos Hub, so to say. But the question always is, who will use this product at the end of the day, and who's bringing the liquidity? And I think this is like a good sign that, Neutron is so well connected to the broader ecosystem, and that we see a promising launch here. So in my view, it's underrated, of course. And your takeaway?
Also underrated.
Perfect. Then the next project I want to talk about is DOT. So obviously, Polkadot and the Cosmos Hub have kind of a similar approach of doing things. So in the Cosmos ecosystem, we have the app chains, and in Polkadot, you have the parachains. In the Cosmos ecosystem, you have the Cosmos Hub, and in Polkadot, you have the relay chain. And Polkadot still the 11th largest cryptocurrency in terms of market cap. And I wanted to put this in because I also want to talk about other ecosystems here and there, as we just did about Avalanche. Now I want to dive deeper into DOT, so a project that is like kind of similar to Cosmos. And DOT had a pretty rough time recently, also last year with the Akala drama. So there was like this huge exploit, if I remember it right. But they also released like an IBC equivalent called XZM, which is like interesting. So you basically see these strong synergies here between Polkadot and the Cosmos Hub. Yet I believe that Polkadot is a little bit overrated, in my opinion, because it's still so high in the ranking. And I think that the shared security model with where you have like one relay chain and then a couple of parachains is a little bit outdated in my book, because you also need a lot of money to basically get started with a parachain. And the parachain slots are limited, and basically pricing out teams that have a smart or an innovative idea just because they don't have the money for something is, in my view, not the best approach in a bear market, because the best projects are, as we all know, being born in a bear market. So yeah, just imagine if Aave got priced out because they couldn't afford to launch on Ethereum, then we would not have all of these OG DeFi applications on top of Ethereum today. So this is why I think that Polkadot is a little bit overrated right now, just because their shared security model with one relay chain and a couple of parachains is outdated. And secondly, they're pricing out teams with innovative ideas. And I like their shared security concept of Avalanche and the Cosmos Hub more, which is why I don't see the reason for Polkadot to be in the ranking higher in terms of market cap compared to Avalanche and the Cosmos Hub. And now I'm interested what you think, Cito.
Yeah, I made a video a couple of weeks ago comparing Polkadot, Cosmos, and Avalanche, like subnets versus parachains versus app chains. And the conclusion was basically that Polkadot is by far market leader in shared security, right? Like you said, in the past 2 years when they launched, they had this huge hype. I think the first 3 or 4 auctions for parachains to launch on Kusama, even not even on Polkadot, they raised like hundreds of millions of dollars, right? Which, as you say, like for a smaller project, that's impossible to compete with. Now, I think with hype cooled off, the bear market, those slots are actually dirt cheap now, as far as I remember. But also they never managed to like really have this vibrant, exciting DeFi ecosystem like Cosmos has, right? So I'm not aware what's the equivalent of Osmosis and Polkadot, the equivalent of Stargaze and Polkadot, right? But maybe I'm also just missing out on that. I don't know. But yeah, I think in hindsight now, like DOT has been overrated a lot. Moving forward, obviously, there are some of the smartest people like Gavin Wood, obviously absolute Ethereum OG, wrote, the EVM and Solidity, basically invented Solidity, wrote the Ethereum yellow paper. Like, he's a visionary, and I think Polkadot is still too early to judge, right? Like most crypto ecosystems. But yeah, I think they really need to ramp up on certain things like the DeFi ecosystem, DEX volumes, liquidity, UX, UI, and also interoperability, right? The funniest thing, or I don't know, best thing for Cosmos is the first ecosystem in which IBC was implemented was actually the closest competitor in their own ecosystem. So IBC went live on Polkadot, basically on Kusama through Composable. Through the Picasso chain, they implemented IBC, and they are going to connect now all these parachains to Cosmos. So it's funny that, Polkadot basically got front run from their closest competitor in their own ecosystem with technology that they have been working on themselves. So yeah, I think when it comes to shared security, Cosmos can learn a lot from Polkadot. But now I think with the AEZ and that narrative, like, we have a lot of chains lined up. But when it comes to interoperability and even governance, I think Cosmos is ahead here, and also like maybe some other ecosystems, like you said, Avalanche. They also have their own AVM standard. But yeah, it's cool. It's exciting times in interoperability general. But yeah, I think to answer the question, DOT so far overrated in my opinion. But moving forward, maybe fairly rated, because I'm sure there's a lot in the works. Also, like you mentioned, to scale the parachains, basically. I know they've been working on something called para threads, which basically allows parachain slot holders to sublease their space, their block space, basically to smaller projects. That's an interesting idea, but I don't know when that's coming. So I think there's cool things in the works, but it's not there yet, and Cosmos has all that. So yeah. And if you just look at market cap, I would say compared to Atom, definitely overrated. But yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so current timing, overrated. Yeah, I would agree on that. Yeah, I would make this decision as well.
But I also think there's a lot of synergies, like you said, between both ecosystems. Yeah. There's a lot of mutual respect between, Parity and Cosmos developers. And yeah, it's positive vibes, right? I think in the end of the day, it's all about discovering and leveraging synergies and not trying to say who is better, who is doing this, who is doing that. But that's the current state, and me as a user, that's my feelings about it. But yeah, I'm also not as deep into Polkadot, obviously, as I'm in Cosmos. So maybe there's some things I'm missing out. But every time I'm talking to somebody, it's like, yeah, we don't have Osmosis, we don't have this, we don't have IBC. Like, we need that, right? And a lot of it also depends on Parity itself, right? And the Web3 Foundation, like I said, they dictate the roadmap. They, obviously have close ties to some of the parachains that they favor. You don't have that in Cosmos. Like, Cosmos is much more community oriented in that sense. So I prefer that, but it's obviously up to everybody to decide for themselves.
Yeah, 100%. And I believe you also remember this time where we met actually mid-late 2021, where we were like very, very excited about Polkadot, because back then there was no IBC, there was just a Cosmos Hub and no real app chains in that sense. And then I was like very bullish on DOT, and I mean, it eventually paid off. But then I know you convinced me to sell like most of my dots to Atom. I remember that. We just arrived in Lisbon. We were sitting in the shisha bar and you said, do it. And I was like on my mobile phone. I said, okay, I do it.
Yeah.
Mission accomplished. Yeah, the next project is a classic Cosmos app chain, so to say. Nolos. You mentioned it. Also, Nolos will join Atom Dubai, which is like very, very cool. So if you want to talk to the team and you are in Dubai by chance, I think that's the best option to do so. I believe they are also at the Gateway conference in Prague. I don't know when the Gateway conference is, but I believe in early June. But yeah, Nolos will be the world's first DeFi lease, and there will also be a Cosmos app chain, IBC enabled from the very beginning. And what you can do on Nolos is, or like with the DeFi lease, is you can go ahead and say, for example, you have one atom and you put it into the DeFi lease, and then you have the outlook to up to 3 times of the initial deposited amount. So you can deposit one atom with the outlook to up to 3 atom. And what you do then, your one atom that is being deployed in this lease is basically your security, and then you start to pay off your debt. So for example, if the atom price, for example, increases, you can also use the appreciating price of the underlying asset that is being locked into the DeFi lease. You can use it to pay off your debt. But obviously, you can also go the other way around, that you get liquidated if the atom price, for example, completely collapses overnight. But as you can see, it gives you a certain capital efficiency, and for me feels like leverage in a healthy way, so to say. So I'm very, very excited about the Nolos DeFi lease, and also the fact that Nolos is an app chain. And besides that, I also recorded very, very recently a tutorial with their founder, Ivan, on the FRENS VALIDATOR YouTube show. So please feel free to check it out. What you will realize is that the UX is very, very straightforward. If you have used Osmosis once in your life before, you will find it super easy to navigate around Nolos. So yeah, I'm very excited about Nolos' launch.
Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, it's a very innovative DeFi application, and you said they launched it as an app chain, which obviously right now, in a bear market, it's a tough time, but they're pushing it through. They got a lot of support also from the community, and that's great to see. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I think we need more of those native Cosmos DeFi applications, and yeah, their mainnet is actually coming up today in 12 days.
Yeah.
I think May 23 is mainnet launch. So yeah, it's around the corner. I'm not sure. I think they do an airdrop, but I think they do one, yeah. Right? Maybe you know more.
I think so, but yeah, if you have Nolos at some point, we at FRENS VALIDATOR will also be a validator on Nolos from the very beginning. So yeah, also feel free to stake your Noloses with us. But yeah, I think TLDR, for me, Nolos is underrated in that sense that it's like a brand new product, and like we really talk about the very first DeFi lease ever, and it was invented in the Cosmos ecosystem using the Cosmos stack. I think that says it all. So underrated, in my view.
Yeah. I also think underrated. And always happy to see when new chains go live. I think that's
Always
what
exciting.
makes the ecosystem so, like native applications. We're not trying to like copy what others do, but there's like innovative spirit in Cosmos, especially in DeFi. Like that's very strong. So excited for Nolos.
Yeah, 100%. And I just teased it. The next project I want to talk about is Crescent. I remember when Crescent launched, it was like kind of a low-key project back then. It just popped out. And I remember how I pronounced Crescent in a very, very German way. I said Crescent or something. And people like complained in the comment box and stuff like this. Yeah, German. But I also said, like, if Americans are allowed to say Porsche instead of Porsche, the German is allowed to say Crescent. So yeah.
Or
But anyway,
Mercedes.
yeah, Mercedes or BMW. It's BMW. Bayerische Motorwerke. But anyway, let's focus on Crescent. And Charles, I see you in the chat. I can share everything about Nolos in the description below after the stream. But yeah, in regards to Crescent, it launched actually around 1 year ago. And now the project is again around 1 year old. So yeah, how did you follow the project's process? And also, I think you had Crescent on your show very recently, Cito. So could you like walk us around a little bit and share your general thoughts on Crescent?
Yeah, I mean, the backstory of Crescent goes back to 2021 when IBC launched. The idea was that the Cosmos Hub should probably have its own DEX on the on the Cosmos Hub itself. So that was the original idea of the Gravity DEX, which was developed by B Harvest, who is actually a validator in Cosmos. I think they're based out of Korea, and then Osmosis launched and obviously killed it, right? Like they took IBC to the market, they onboarded users, they had great UI, UX, gamification, there was a giant airdrop, farming, like that brought that whole DeFi ecosystem and IBC to life. But then at Cosmoverse, actually, Cosmoverse 1 in Lisbon, when all of these guys came together after years of not seeing each other, after the COVID years, after also like the Cosmos restructuring years, they came together, the people from Tenement, from Osmosis, and I think the Bee Harvest people were also there, and said, maybe we should not do the Gravity DEX on the Cosmos Hub. Maybe we should rebrand it, call it Crescent, and launch as a sovereign app chain, right? To compete basically with Osmosis. So Crescent launched, or like I said, around a year ago, towards the end of the bull market, obviously. So the price of CRE obviously got destroyed in the past year, but I think their UI and UX and the DEX itself is severely underrated from a user perspective, and that's why I had Jung on my channel like a week or two ago, and yeah, he just walked me through the plans. Like they have an order book, they have liquid. I don't remember how they call it, but they have something cool, innovative coming up around staking and those kind of things. Not liquid staking, but something else. Liquid farming, it's called. Liquid farming, which is really cool. But yeah, they have innovative stuff going on. I think given that their market cap is so low, that's maybe something to put on the watch list and to start playing around with the DEX and see if you like it, right? But yeah, I think it's undervalued. And personally, I also think that we need more competitive DEXs in Cosmos, because right now everything is very Osmosis heavy. Obviously, there's also Thorchain, which doesn't have IBC, but it's also Cosmos DEX that has decent usage and activities. There's Say Network coming up, DYDX. So Crescent is definitely having a hard time with these large competitors coming up, but I think their UX is really smooth, and I hope that they will manage to onboard more users, and that's why I encourage people to like just play around with the DEX and see if you like it. But yeah, I'm a user. I don't have large creebacks, but I'm just a user, and I think it makes sense to play around with different DEXs in Cosmos.
Yeah, I also think that Crescent is underappreciated, so to speak, in the Cosmos ecosystem. I also love the team and I also love how low key they are doing things. They just they just have their heads down and build. And I think when I first used the DEX compared to now, I think the user experience changed a lot to the better. So I'm a big Crescent fan, actually. So really enjoyed playing around with the DEX and so. So this was pretty cool. And also the airdrop back then was very, very generous. I also remember that. So they are also most likely coming to Cosmoverse now. They've also been involved heavily at Cosmoverse last year. So yeah, there's a lot of things going on. And I think this is like something you cannot afford to like look away or like to ignore. Crescent is really a very, very exciting OG project from the early days of Cosmos. And I would also say it's kind of community driven that way that you mentioned it got basically like bootstrapped at Cosmoverse 2021, So yeah, I really like the project a lot. So I would also say underrated, or moreover, to be more specific here, underappreciated, because yeah, everything is very osmosis heavy right now. And also Say and DYDX feels for me more like perpetuals. It's not like this classic I swap 2 coins back and forth. That's Crescent for me. And if I want to do derivatives, I go to DYDX and Say. So I think it's also not fair to compare these projects here.
But I think that's what I had, talked about in the interview with Jung. I think actually there's a lot more activity and demand on that aspect, on perps and derivatives, and that's actually the direction Crescent wants to go. Like they actually want to do more derivatives, and perpetuals are coming. I don't know, sometime in the next couple of months, before DYDX does it. So I think they definitely want to position themselves more as a competitive DEX to DYDX. I feel like, from my feeling, more so than they want to compete with Osmosis sometime in the future, but they just want to offer this variety of applications. They also will launch a liquidity bootstrapping tool similar to StreamSwap, which went live on Osmosis with the Flex token. So they also want to build something like that, so that projects can also have the chance to roll out initial liquidity on Crescent in the future. But yeah, I think they would just want to build this full stack DeFi platform that is optimized for traders, whether you just want to do a swap, whether you want to do perps, order book, liquidity bootstrapping. Like there's a lot you can do in the future. But yeah, I'm excited. So I also think underrated and definitely underappreciated.
Yeah, I can just agree on that. Then the last project of the day. What will it be? What will it be? Yeah, we had to do it. There was no way around. We had to do it. Pepe.
What's the price right now?
I don't know. It's like with so many numbers, it's like so distracting. But I think it's the 17th or 23rd largest coin in terms of market cap. Am I right? But I think it's slightly below the top 20 or within the top 20.
65 right now. 65.
Oh, 65 already. Oh yeah, it dumped. It dumped severely, right? But in the meantime, they were like up like crazy.
Yeah, I think the highest I personally saw it was like ranked 30 something or 40. But the thing about meme coins and also like meme NFTs, and yesterday Elon made this tweet about the My Lady stuff. The thing about why that's pumping is because that's culture, right? And that's like native to the internet, native to this meme culture that we're in. And that's all it is, right? It's community, it's culture, it's that spirit. And I think obviously, Pepe, I mean, some of these things, obviously there's also like heavy like insider money and big money that comes in, but I haven't really dig deep into Pepe itself. But yeah, I'm always like observing this on the sidelines. I don't into that, right? I mean, it did 1,000x or something, but now it's already down 65% within like 3 or 4 days. So extremely volatile. I would see this more like a gamble. But there are definitely projects like obviously Dogecoin that have this strong culture, but they also have this strong support from big players. So, but yeah, I would not ape into that. I would also not chase those meme coins, especially after they did a 10,000x. Like definitely don't chase it after people turned $20 into $2 million. Don't ape into that. Like chill. Maybe wait for the next one, or I don't know. If you want to gamble, then go ahead. But yeah, but it's fun. I mean, it's part of crypto. It's an open, an open ecosystem where everybody is allowed and free to do whatever they want. And Pepe is culture, man.
Yeah, I can agree on this in terms of Pepe is culture. And you mentioned a lot of things, and when I thought about the same things that you just mentioned, I had my Dogecoin deja vu. Because if you remember, it was 2020 after the DeFi summer, and all of a sudden, Dogecoin made a 3x. And the market cap was like, I don't know what it was, like, let it be 30 million or 40 million, something like this. And the people freaked out that they said Doge is completely overrated and don't chase the pump, the next meme coin will come. but it continued. It continued, and all of a sudden, Elon was tweeting about Dogecoin like crazy. So, and you mentioned it. It's investing, and especially crypto, is all about narratives. And we had this Dogecoin narrative, and then we had the Shiba Inu narrative. And I want to explain this because I think from a broad perspective, like what it felt like to me was like I was seeing Dogecoin and I said, okay, that's the last meme coin, so to speak, that we will have. And then Shiba Inu came, and now we have Pepe. So I think there will be like nonstop a couple of meme coins on the market. And what changed since 2020 is that we have trillions of US dollars in the market, and randomly they also enter like these meme coins as like basically an overreaction of everything what went wrong in the financial system, so to speak, that the people now have, like, which is also a good thing, now have access to all of these apps where they can like trade these meme coins and also leverage on them. Like, imagine this, there were people like doing leverage on Dogecoin or on Shiba Inu. And I think, because you mentioned don't chase every pump, I wouldn't buy a Pepe either or so, but I wouldn't be surprised if in the next bull run Pepe also enters like randomly the top 10, super randomly, because more dollars went into the crypto market randomly, and people buy Pepe without any reason, plus leverage because people find the Pepe logo interesting. So all of the rules that we follow here with investing, and also by rating all of the other projects, you can put them all on the side. It's a lottery ticket, and yeah, I think I have the strange feeling that Pepe will do something crazy in the next bull cycle, just because people randomly ape in, like very randomly. Like just an anecdote I've had at East Denver. I was flying there, and one of the American stewardesses said, yeah, what do you think about Dogecoin, Shiba Inu? So she was like approaching all of these pumps. And if you think about how all of these trillions of stimulus money went into those meme coins with leverage powered by FTX, of course, wow, this was like crazy times. It was really a crazy time. And I think this can happen again. Not saying that people will pump or something, but it just demonstrated me once again, what these meme coins can do, and that you shouldn't underestimate them. And all of these people saying now, oh, look at them, look at Pepe, it dumb, now the project is dead or something. Like, wait for it. That's all what I'm saying.
Yeah, and also even Shiba Inu, right, is a top 16 coin, $5 billion market cap. So with Doge, with SHIB, we have Pepe, and there's some others on page 1. But yeah, man, it's just culture, and I think it's part of the game. It's part of the spirit in crypto, these are all experiments, right? And narratives. So yeah. But I also don't know, like, what's the token distribution in Pepe. Like, maybe there's one guy that's going to wreck everything. Like, that's why it's so important to be careful. And like you said, people just throw the entire due diligence out of the window and just ape into it because it's going up, right? While you should be doing the opposite. Like, when it did 1000x, you should not ape in, right? You should.
Yeah, but this was the thing. This was also the case with Dogecoin the last time. It already made like 1000x, and people said stay away from that. And then Elon tweeted about this, and then it made another 1000x. It's like, you never know. You never know.
That's true. Yeah. No, man. I mean, I don't have any exposure. I don't know if I have any Doge laying around. I don't think so, to be honest. But yeah, it's culture. I think you just need to be aware that, like, it is what it is, a meme, nothing more. It's not a technical revolution, but it's part of crypto. And I love seeing those things pump and make the news. It's like, it's fun. Yeah. It's also something, especially in a bear market, seeing the Pepe face everywhere. People, it makes you a little bit, forget sometimes, the seriousness of the industry, regulation and governments and this and that. It's like, this is crypto also, right? And it's part of the games. Don't hate it, and don't hate when others make money also, and when you miss out. Like, I'm happy, like Ivan on Tech said, respect the pump. So I always respect the pump, and Pepe did a great pump, and a lot of people made a lot of money, so that's great. But yeah.
And now, like just one or two last things. But before we do that, if you have any questions for Cito or me, put them into the comment section, and I'm happy to pick them up. Let me just stop also presenting here. But yeah, one last thing I want to mention in regards to Pepe is like, or like also in regards to Dogecoin, is how surprising these things can be, and also how narratives like basically shift everything so significantly. I remember like one of my friends who like studies in St. Gallen, one of the most, maybe one of the best economic universities you can go to in the world, and he's studying economics and all of this fancy stuff. Yet he was one of the guys who leveraged Dogecoin with a 6x or something, or a 7x with 0.1 BTC when it was at its all-time high. So considering that, how crazy a market can become, and I think, yeah, this can happen again. And what you also just mentioned is, I mean, obviously this is not a technical revolution, but I also think that these technical revolutions in regards of interoperability, what we see with IBC, for example, I mean, I think like the media won't cover this. It will just be there. It will become mass adopted, and it will be like very seamless. While things like FTX, Dogecoin, a Green Frog, this will enter the news, and not, you know, Axela, for example, or IBC or whatever.
Yeah, no, I think also like a lot of people are maybe turned off by the industry being so techy, and memes are just fun, right? And crypto is also so inclusive. It also shows like the power of crypto of being like very accessible, of like, because in order to buy Pepe, I think it's on Ethereum, right? That's why Ethereum is also like congested right now. But in order to buy Pepe, you still have to actually be onboarded to crypto in the first place, right? You need to have MetaMask, you need to have your wallet, you need to be able to buy that on Uniswap, right? You basically get lurked into the ecosystem through this meme, but then you also experience crypto for the first time in your life. And I think actually like memes or scams or anything that's flashy, that's maybe too good to be true, where people ape in, people might lose a lot of money, but they might stick around and say, hey, this was what I just did was actually interesting, was actually cool. And that, in the end of the day, is also net positive for our industry, right? Maybe there's, I don't know, 100,000 people that were never crypto holders before, got aped into Pepe, and now 10,000 of them are staying around, even though they lose money, but they stay around because they think, actually this MetaMask thing is cool and Ethereum is cool, but it's expensive. What alternatives do I have? Bam, bam, bam. How do I get my coin from here to there? How do I sell it? How do I provide liquidity? What is even that, right? So I think it's still a net positive in that sense, but of course it comes with crazy risks. Never ape into something you don't fully understand. Never put in your life savings, maybe 10, 20, 30 bucks, to play around, to be part of the culture. I think that's fine, but yeah, don't expect to get rich with this quick. It's all about like risk management and like expectation management, which I think is even more important for some people. So yeah, that's it from my side on Pepe.
Yeah, I think we can wrap it up here in regards to Pepe. One or two questions I want to pick up from the chat. First one is, when will there be a connection to reality of natural real world solutions? That's a good question, actually.
I mean, from my view, I think the biggest blocker for that is actually, the uncertainty around regulation, because there are pilot projects for, that want to tokenize real world assets, but it's just hard. There's no liquidity, there's no clear regulatory frameworks. I know Koreum, which is an L1 that just launched in Cosmos, they want to tokenize things. There's many others, like also non-Cosmos projects, but I think we really need more clarity on that, how that's being treated, what type of assets these are, how that's regulated, how that's taxed, right? That's a whole different thing. And I think once we see that, there's going to be endless use cases for it, right? Whether it's tokenized real estate or any sort of like real world assets. I think real estate is a big one, which I'm very excited about. And I've been saying this since 3 years now. It's like this year is the year of real estate on crypto, like the merge. But hasn't happened so far, but I think it will come eventually one day. So
yeah.
yeah.
And also in Cosmos, there are like some projects that are approaching this, for example, Chain for Energy or Sword Chain. So there are like teams working on this actually. But yeah, we will see when, these products or when these projects are like really hitting the mainstream. I think that's really a question of time. But as you mentioned, also regulation plays an important role here. Then last question of today. I will like put it a little bit different here. Will Juno survive now that Neutron is launching? I would change this question a little bit is, what are your current thoughts on Juno? There were like a lot of FUD about Juno recently on Twitter. People were complaining about everything. So my question here is more, how do you view Juno right now? Maybe that's something that we can discuss on the next Overrated versus Underrated episode.
I've been covering Juno since mainnet launch, since Genesis, October 2021. We went and tracked and covered the entire rise of Juno from being this revolutionary smart contract platform to now the token price dumped to 60 cents and everybody's doubting it. But the thing is, look more at what the builders are doing and less at what the price is doing. And in the past few weeks, there was obviously max drama on Twitter. Also important to note here is that the Twitter community, the noisy Twitter community, does not represent the entirety of a crypto community. It's just a vast minority, actually, that is very loud and that gets a lot of eyeballs and causes these concerns. But what matters more is to just get a feeling, from the development side of things. And I talked individually to Lobo, I talked to Dimi, I talked to Jake. I actually have a video coming up on Juno on Sunday. It's already being recorded. It's now in editing. But development-wise, they're more excited than ever. Mesh security is coming up, which they are core innovators of. They're doubling down on DAO, which they invented basically, and is this innovative governance framework that now Neutron is also implementing, right? They're bringing Bitcoin security via Babylon chain to Juno. They want to make the chain faster. They want to make it more performant and attract more applications like that as well. So on the development side of things, everything is perfect. But what I personally, like, my biggest concern with Juno is probably this, from a user perspective, what I felt is that there was a lack of alignment between the core one development team. But I think that was mostly because of poor communications, which is a common thing in Cosmos. So I told them, like, guys, you need to like get your stuff together and like, communicate more clear what you guys are actually doing, and not get dragged into that drama and all these accusations and scam and this and fraud and blah. That's all. I've been around in crypto for too long to be affected by this. But Neutron being around, Archway is coming up, that also is a competitor to Juno in that sense. Honestly, there's so much room for all these to coexist. Just look at Ethereum, right? We have Ethereum, we have BNB chain, we have Avalanche, we have Tron. Those are all EVM chains, and they're multi-billion-dollar ecosystems, right? Cosmos is just getting started, and I think there's going to be a lot of demand and a lot of space for all these chains to coexist. But yeah, Juno, I think they just need to have their own flavor. Neutron will have their own flavor, Archway, and many more that are coming up. So Neutron doesn't make Juno obsolete, but yeah, I think the pie is big enough, and the pie even grows with more awareness in Cosmos. So there wasn't a long answer to it, but I think given that it's been so sensitive and on Twitter, I know a lot of people are concerned and asked me about it. I wanted to share like the full picture, my full thoughts. So I haven't sold any Juno. I'm just chilling. I also don't think now is the time to like be very greedy on Juno. Maybe it is, because now it's max fear and the price is very low. But I definitely don't think it's dead.
Yeah, I think there's also something important you mentioned in regards of room to grow, because Yeah, I mean, also within these ecosystems, there's often enough room to grow. I mean, on Ethereum, you also don't only have Uniswap, you have Paraswap, you have SushiSwap, you have Oneinch, and so on and so forth. So I think this is like very important to mention here. Yeah, and also I would like also highly advise to not like listen to the noise that much. I think it was like also very rude how the Juno team is also being treated with very few evidence here and there, just throwing SHIT on the founders. That's not a nice way to engage, and also not good for the broader Cosmos ecosystem. I really don't like this. But let us know what projects we should follow in our we should rate in our next episode of Overrated, Underrated. Comment in the comment section below. And Cito, thank you so much for joining. It's getting late in Dubai. So thanks a lot for joining. And guys, stay tuned for Cosmoverse. And if you want to join Atom Dubai and Atom Istanbul, more tickets are coming out soon. Join the Cosmoverse Telegram group. So with that being said, once again, thank you so much, Cryptocito, for joining.
Thank you, sir. Thanks, everybody.